Hello everyone, welcome to our first episode of Don't Text Your Ex. We have lots to get through today. I know the beanie in the headphones is kind of a weird look, but I was just wearing the beanie today and it looked weirder to not have it. I'm going to try to sit closer to the mic because I felt like when I was listening to the trailer as just a podcast, it was hard to hear me. So I'm going to try to sit a little closer to the mic. For today, I have lots of notes. We're just going to jump right in. So first thing, drink of the day, water in the hydro flask. If you are watching on YouTube, you can see my beautiful hydro flask that I'm holding up with some nice filtered Brita water. We are also going to talk about the lip combo I'm wearing. Every time I go out, I tell my friends my lip combo. So I will tell you what I'm wearing, even though it's a little uneven. For lip liner, I am wearing the Rare Beauty matte lip liner in the shade Wise. It's like a brown. I really like these. A nice brown shade. I'm wearing the Fenty Beauty lip stain in the shade My Type, MAI type. And it's like this hot fuchsia lip stain. It's like my favorite for the summer. And then on top of all of that, I'm wearing the LA Girl lip oil in the shade Shimmering Grapefruit. It tastes like grapefruit. If you used the baby lips growing up, the Maybelline baby lips, the coral one, it tastes exactly like that. All right, now that we've gotten some logistics out of the way, let's get into our show today. So first thing we are going to talk about is our artist that we are featuring this week. Hopefully this is how you do this without getting copyrighted, because I'm just gonna start talking about this artist, but I'm not gonna play any music, or I feel like that'll be fine. Our Midwestern princess, the lesbian's Jesus of the moment, Chappell Roan. Okay, we got to talk about her. I have not been into Chappell Roan. I was kind of an adjacent fan. Sorry if you hear the airplane going by, but I'm a full-blown fan at this point. After I saw her Tiny Desk, which NPR Tiny Desks are the most underrated form of music consumption ever. I love them. They're so fun. I every time I watch Tiny Desk, I'm just like, imagine what it's like to work for NPR Tiny Desk and meet all these like super famous musicians. I just think it's the coolest segment that NPR does. So I love Tiny Desk. I loved their Tiny Desk. I thought it was so good. The girl game backing them up. Not exactly sure what Chappell's pronouns are, so if I am using the wrong pronouns, correct me. I'm going to use they, them for the rest of this segment. But yeah, their music is just so good for the gays. As a lesbian woman, I just heavily relate to their sort of argument of finding small queer spaces within the Midwest to exist in. I was watching this interview with them and they were just like, people who live on the coast don't understand the value of places like the Midwest or the people in the middle. And I completely relate to that, moving to DC and just seeing how the sort of assumptions that are made about people who live in the middle and how they can quite honestly sometimes are seen as like worthless because there's this culture of unacceptance, but really there are drag queens, there are really lively pride festivals, there are lots of queer people who are connecting and gathering and doing good things for other queer people there. So I love Chappell's sentiment on that. If you are going to choose to go listen, my recs are, of course, Red Wine Supernova, top of the Spotify. It'll be the first thing you see. I forget what it's called. Let me look it up before. Don't want to misspeak. I also love that they are so I also love that they are so inspired by drag, and like they're touring with Olivia Rodrigo right now, and they're bringing out drag queens from the local area. It's just such a cool individual, and their makeup, like, come on. Hot to go, obviously, but a slower song that I really, really, really love by them is Feminine Nomenon, really, really good. Hold on, I sent it to my friend the other day. So let me just look. Picture You. Oh my gosh. I love Picture You. Really slow, good ballad. Yeah, Chappell Roan, 5 out of 5. Please go listen. They're just incredible. Freaking incredible. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is a skincare product that I have been using recently. I love the Grande Lash Serum. It is just, I know people say it gives you like orbital fat loss in your eyes and stuff. It has not done anything weird to my eyes. My eyes look completely normal. And it has definitely grown my lashes, and that's exactly what I wanted it to do. And I just love it. I think it works really well. It's so expensive. I think the next thing I'm going to try is Babe Lash, because it's not necessarily that I think it's just Grande Lash. Like, this is just my first time trying a lash serum that's like more expensive. Like, I had tried the Ordinary one, and that one didn't really do anything. It didn't really claim to do anything. And then I used the Maybelline one, which I actually think the Maybelline one might have been working, but I just wanted to try something else. And yeah, Babe Lash looks really good. So I think that's the next one I'm going to try. So lash serum for the win. For the win. Now, guys, this is so good. I had recorded this episode, and then I decided I had to re-record it because the craziest thing that eludes so well. I had an experience that just worked too well for the basis of this podcast. My ex texted me. I didn't text my ex texted me. Crazy. So, we have to speak on it. I'm going through my text right now to find it, because obviously I don't I don't text him that often. It starts at 2:39 p.m. I'm with one of my friends. Let me set the scene. We're sitting, we're eating, we're chatting, we're just hanging out. And, I saw something on TikTok that said we're in retrograde. Somebody text me and tell me if that's true, because that would make sense. Isn't your ex supposed to text you during retrograde? Isn't that what happens? Hey, at 2:53, I'm sorry. Here we go. I'm not going to, give out too much identifying information, because I don't want it to be clear which one of my exes it is. But I said, for what? And essentially, the relationship I have with this ex is honestly pretty good. We're on pretty good terms. And I thought that we were friends, and they kind of lied to me about something in not a pretty direct way, but we sort of had this basis of friendship, and I had asked them about the status of just like their relationship in general. And then they said one thing, and some posts said another, and I was like, oh. But I did not engage, because we don't text our ex over here. And I just kind of let it be, and I was like, whatever, we'll see where this goes. I didn't say anything. Like, this was completely unprompted. This is like quite literally crazy. Like, why did they text me? I asked them about the relationship that they lied about, and they told me it was not a thing at the time, which I question the validity of, but okay. And they apologized again. I don't really know what we're apologizing for, but like, okay. Wished them the best, because I do want them to find somebody good for them, and I want them to want me to find somebody good for me. Like, I want it to be amicable and nice. You know what I mean? Those are the terms I want to end on and be on. But I did say I started a podcast called Don't Text Your Ex. So this interaction might get put on the pod. And then they said, do not. I said, bruh. They said, nope. I said, I obviously won't name you. I'll just say an ex texted me during retrograde. That's enough of that. Don't text me then. You might end up on the podcast. And then they said this, which I thought was really funny. Came for clarity, and now I might end up on a podcast. Moving on. We will see if we get any other texts from my exes throughout this podcast. And of course, I will tell you. Because, hey, if they text first, I'm gonna text back. You know, this podcast is called Don't Text Your Ex because you can't text them first. That's embarrassing. Stand up. But, like, if they text me, like, I'm entertaining it for the podcast. You know what I mean? I'm entertaining it for the story time. Now I am going to tell a story that I think is important to tell another story for the beginning of this podcast. I'm going to tell the story of how I found out I was gay, because I feel like it builds on a lot of the other things that we're going to talk about on here, and I just want to share that story. So, I grew up in a pretty my family was always super, super accepting of queer people. There were other queer people in my family, and I could tell it would not be an issue to be gay in my family, but my family maybe juxtaposely is also extremely Catholic. So I knew that, you know, even whatever was being said in my home maybe was not what was said in my academic environment. I went to Catholic school, and, you know, there was definitely a rhetoric being pushed against gay people in a very strong way, especially since I was going through school in the early 2010s. So, you know, when gay marriage was legalized when I was in elementary school, when I was at Catholic elementary school. So there were definitely really strong messages against being gay. And I did not think I was gay when I was a child. People talk about, like, I talk to lesbians specifically all the time. They're like, oh my gosh, like, I knew I was gay, like, my whole life. Like, I've known since I was, like, 4. And it's funny because, like, I've known that I've wanted to be a diplomat since I was, like, 4. But I did not know I was gay. I didn't know I was gay until I was 15. So, speeding up to the present, because I'm just giving that background to tell you, no, like, I didn't Google girls kissing when I was 8 years old on the iPad. Like, I just wasn't interested. I just didn't care. I was an ally because my family was, and, you know, I was always taught to accept those around me, but I didn't really have, you know, an opinion on myself. I didn't see myself as a part of that community in any way, or had some, like, crush or something like that. So it's the summer before my freshman year of high school, and I am sitting at the pool with my friend at the time, one of my really close friends. She wouldn't be mind being named on here. I was sitting with Clara, and Clara and I are talking, and she had a boyfriend at the time, so she was just talking about her boyfriend, and I was like, yeah, like, I just don't like a guy. Like, I'm too much of a girl boss, Clara. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, I don't have time for a man. And I was extremely academically driven in school, so especially in middle school and high school. So it was true, I wouldn't have had time for a relationship anyways, because I was so busy doing my schoolwork and playing my sports. But I quite literally just thought I had girl bossed too hard. Girl bossed my way out of liking a man ever. And she was like, oh, it'll come with time. Like, don't even worry about it. So my first semester of freshman year, I make a really close friend. I went to a high school that was not affiliated really with my middle school. So some people, like, I went to a Catholic high school. So, and my middle school was public. So they weren't really affiliated. There was nobody else from my middle school that went to my high school. And so I made all these new friends. It was like a clean slate. I got really, really close with this one girl, and we were best friends, and we hung out all the time. We lived really close together. We didn't play sports or anything like that together. We had my fourth period honors global studies class together. And I just knew that we were really close friends until it kind of felt like maybe we weren't just close friends. I can now reflect on middle school and high school and notice times where like I'd be at, like, I remember this one time, I think I was probably in 6th or 7th grade. I was at this group sleepover for a girl's birthday party, and there was like 13 girls, and I didn't sleep that night. I quite literally, I stayed up the entire night. It's like ingrained in my memory because I could not sleep because I was so anxious about sleeping with all these girls around me. And these girls, we were all like, everybody was like cuddling and like really close to each other, and I was just like, I hate this, I need to get out of here. And it was definitely me being a closeted queer person and just not knowing and not having the words to express what I was feeling. But I didn't sleep. I was just like sitting, like staring at the ceiling, like, get me out of here, I need to go home. And I never went to a group sleepover after that. That was the last group sleepover first and last that I ever went to for somebody's birthday. I was like, never again. And there were other times where I just remember being like sleeping in a bed with one of my friends and like nothing ever happening, but just being like like stressed out, like, oh, I need to leave, I don't want to be here anymore, like, what is happening? But when I got to high school and I had this friend, we would have sleepovers, we hung out a lot, and long story short, January 11th of my freshman year, I was laying, like, having sleepover, laying in her bed with her, and I was like, what if we kissed? LOL, what if we kissed right now? And if you don't want to, then we'll like wake up tomorrow and like we'll pretend it didn't happen. So that's exactly what we did. And we woke up the next morning and I did not forget, and she didn't want to forget necessarily either, but it was like a million bricks lifted off of my shoulders, guys. Like, I felt so confused for so long about why I did not have a crush on a guy and why I just wasn't feeling that romantic attraction. And then I kissed a girl and I was like, oh, this makes so much more sense. And there's this girl from my hometown who claims that I came out as bisexual in middle school. I don't know what this girl is talking about. Not that it's a problem to be bisexual or to come out as bisexual, but I never did. Like, I for a lot of queer women, they go from straight, bisexual, lesbian. It was a complete 180. I was like, oh, this makes so much more sense. Like, I'm never going to do anything else. Like, this is exactly what I want. And I never was bisexual. So to the girl who's saying that and says she has receipts, pull them up. Pull them up, because what are you talking about? But yeah, I knew, and we dated for too long. We dated for like a year. My parents just kind of thought we were really close friends. I think my mom knew. I really do think that she knew. But I think it took her a while to kind of figure it out. And honestly, it kind of took me a minute to figure it out too. So yeah, I ended up coming out to my parents this summer before my senior year of high school, and they were super accepting. I'm super grateful for the way that they responded, and they were just so happy for me that I was my most authentic self. I did bring a girl to prom my junior year, which was, you could not bring, girls could not bring girls, guys could not bring guys. It was very strict at the high school I went to because it was Catholic. And I'm not going to expose how I did it because I don't want it to somehow deter how those queer folk who go to my school are able to do this in the future. But actually, one of my teachers explained to me how to do it. They were like, if you do this, you can have your girl come to prom with you. I was like, that is exactly what I'm going to do. And everybody kind of knew. I mean, I came out like socially to my friends. Sophomore year, people were asking me questions. Freshman year, no, but midway through sophomore year, I think everybody basically knew in my friend group. And then I was completely out to the school by my junior year for sure. Everybody knew that I was gay, which was a lot. There weren't a lot of out women in my high school because it was Catholic. And I do feel like my teachers knew, and in some regard, it like isolated me in some ways, especially in religion class in like high school. I felt pretty isolated because of my identity as being queer, and it was weird because like the teacher would know, but like we're not going to say anything, but like they would know. We had to take this class my senior year called vocations, and it's basically just like, what are you going to do with your life after this, and how are you going to incorporate Catholicism into it? And I remember them asking me like my teacher asking me, what are you going to do for your career? And I was like, I'm going to be a diplomat. And she was like, okay, like, how is it going to work? Like, give me the logistics. I was like, I'm going to move every 2 to 3 years with the State Department. And she was like, how are you going to have kids? I was like, I'm not. Like, I don't want kids. And she was so thrown aback. She was like, because she was just like, how are you going to raise your family? Like, and not that that's an entirely just an individual queer experience that, and it's not entirely like queer people also do have children, but it was just so clear to me that she could not see the way that I wanted to live my life. And I felt like that a lot in high school. So coming to college I was already very out. My friends quite literally call me their lesbian Jesus. I definitely was out, and I had experiences with girls in high school, but it was not comfortable, and I didn't really identify with it in a really strong way until I came to college. And in the way that I identified with it in high school, it was like it definitely felt like I was the only one in the room who understood, or guys would ask me questions about my sexuality because they felt like they could. Like, you can just ask, which, not that I think any straight man is listening to this, never ask a gay girl about their sexuality. Just don't. It is so it is just never something they want to talk about with you. If you want to know more about how queer women operate, like, read a book. I don't know, look it up on like WebMD, but like, it's not our job to educate you. Please get your explicit content somewhere else. Like, I'm not explaining to you how this works. And especially because like lesbians do get sexualized in a crazy way by men. It happened to me a lot in high school. It's when I could really tell, like, people could see my sexuality as like this sexy, I was sexually explorative with women. Like, no, like, I would be out with my girlfriend holding hands in the Midwest, and I was like kind of afraid, and sometimes I wouldn't let her do that because I was scared. I think revisiting kind of your coming out story is so important, because every time I tell it, I tell the story a little bit differently. I remember different things. I drop things based on context, based on what I think is important. And it is just such a pivotal part of who I am. People talk about having their, what is that in Inside Out? Their core memories. Oh my gosh. And is not me kissing a girl in the basement of her house in her bed, like, not the most core memory of my entire life, and quite literally changed the trajectory of everything I did after. It's just an important thing to reflect on. And I think, especially for me, remembering that being queer in a region of the country where it's not always acceptable to be queer, sometimes dangerous even, and also in a very religious setting, and kind of recognizing how that affected me. I don't hold the same angst I did while I was in Catholic school that I do now against the Catholic Church. I try to be pretty forgiving of the experience, just because it would cause me my own animosity against, like, my parents who were raising me in the church. And, like, there's just no point to that. And I have decided it's not worth my time and energy. But sometimes, because I've chosen to kind of pass over how religion affected my childhood, I neglect the way religion like impacted my identity and my emotions and how I react to things. And I'm going to give you an example. So recently I had a realization with two of my closest friends that I'm looking at my notes from therapy to make sure I say this right. Oh, basically I had this realization that, it's really hard for me to be fake with people. One, because there's a part of my personality that is just very honest and very direct. If you know me, you know I am very direct and I'm very honest, sometimes to a fault and sometimes too soon with people, and it can be a little off-putting. But if you're like me, it's nice because I like people who are really honest and direct, and I can take that because it's nice for my anxiety because I'm not thinking about what I think you are trying to imply. If you're really direct with me, this is how me and my closest relationships always have worked, and my best romantic relationships have worked, is if you are just super, super direct with me. I thought for a really long time I was really sensitive, but after going through a lot of therapy, the only way to implement the things that you learn in therapy is if you know exactly what people are signaling to you. And so now I like really direct communication, and I've always just been super these words, brash, outspoken. My senior superlative was class debater. Have we spoken on this? We need to speak on this actually, because y'all, if you know the person they put me up on that stage with, that because they do a girl and a boy, which also, why it could have been two girls, it should have been two girls. When I think of the class debaters of my senior class in high school, not that I'm gonna make this podcast about my high school experience, okay? Not in the cards. But if I think about the two class debaters, it is not me and the boy that they nominated. But you had to nominate a boy and a girl. It's two girls. And you know who you are. She's not listening. Anyways, continuing on. Back to what I was saying. It's really hard for me to be fake with people. And my therapist was like, well, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You had a lot of years pretending to not be gay, even when sometimes being fake is a skillful behavior. Well, now what the hell? And I didn't even think about it like that. Like, yeah, I didn't think I was gay, but in some way I was kind of pretending I was straight because I just... I can't even like contemplate too hard because then it makes me sad for little me. But because I felt like I had to pretend for so long, especially for my safety in some regards, and definitely at school, that I was straight for a while, and until there came a point of no return. People just knew, and I just dealt with the consequences, and I was treated differently because of it. But when I hit that point of no return, I was able to be essentially my authentic self. I'm way more authentic here in DC than I ever will be in Ohio. Even when I go home now and I dress the way I dress and I act the way I act, I still am masking a good 40% of my personality. It just happens when you put me back in that place. If you put any person back in, you just kind of revert, you know what I mean? So for me, all of that time that I was sort of having to pretend to be queer, and now that I'm able to authentically be myself and grow into a person that I never even could see because I could never even see myself being authentic, it's really hard for me to be fake to people. When sometimes it's to your benefit. Sometimes you need to get through a group project with somebody and they don't need to be your best friend, but you have to be nice to them. Sometimes you work on a committee with somebody and you have to get through working with them, even if you think that they're stupid or you think that they're a bad person. And in those regards, it would be helpful for me to be fake and not always present my most authentic self. So it's just something I'm discerning and wanted to bring up for anybody who might be discerning the same thing. Maybe the reason you have a hard time being fake to other people is because you felt like you were acting or pretending to be somebody else for an extended period of time, and it weighs on your psyche. Just a thought. I have another thought that I feel like we need to talk about. I don't know if I am preaching to the choir or not. I actually don't know what you guys are going to think about this take. Spring break. Why are we flooding to Florida? I just don't get it. One, because why would you want to go where Ron DeSantis is? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, why would I put myself in the same state as that man? Like, you're scaring me a little bit. But also, it's not that warm in Florida in March. Like, it's cold. I remember going to the beach during like spring breakish time when I was younger with my family, and my mom, or like going to Virginia Beach, and it was too cold to get in the water because it's March. Like, what? Why are you going to maybe the UV index is good. The UV index in DC was great though. If the objective is to get tan, you can get tan. I mean, in DC it'd be a lot easier. Ohio is just, the weather is so unpredictable that you just don't know, but I don't get flooding to Florida to the beach. I feel like that's like a summer thing. Like, go to the beach in the summer if you are even a beach person. I'm not really a beach person to begin with, hot take. I'm kind of a lake girl, but that's just me. Why don't you go to like a city? You know what I mean? I'd rather you spend essentially the same amount. These people are spending. You're getting an Airbnb with your friends, you're driving or you're flying there, and then you're spending upwards of $500 on alcohol and drinks the entire trip. Somebody inevitably loses their wallet or loses their phone. People who I was associated with in high school, they got rear-ended on their way to Florida. Like, also, it's super unsafe. I just don't get the appeal. Do you know what I mean? I feel like some of those people who I'm seeing in Florida would be like, you're just bitter because you won't, like, because you aren't there. No, I'm not. If I wanted to go to Florida, I could go to Florida. My sweet mate's from Florida, but I just don't understand going during spring break. Like, if I was going to go to first of all, you couldn't pay me to go to Florida right now with Ron DeSantis there. But let's say Virginia Beach. You couldn't pay me to go to Virginia Beach not in the summer. You know what I mean? Maybe this also has to do with me not being a big beach person. I'd much rather spend that money. I don't know if it's that much cheaper, like, to like go to find a cheap flight to like Amsterdam, plan in advance, go to, I don't know, go to Spain. I feel like spring break would be such a good time to go see a city. You know what I mean? Because it's not too cold, but it's not too hot, and you can kind of wear your cute outfits, and it's spring break and people are all going to the beach, so why don't you go to a city? Go to, Paris, or go somewhere out of the country where you are seeing a new environment, and spring break doesn't happen everywhere in the world at the same time, so you can, like, it's not like the fees are going to be crazy expensive every single week. I'd rather be in a city for a week in March that I'd never been to, if I was even going to spend the money to go on spring break. I didn't go anywhere. I stayed at school over spring break. I also think that it's weird. This is my first year in college, and every year before this, my spring break has been attached to Easter. So, like, going through Holy Week and it not being spring break because Holy Week had to be spring break at Catholic school was kind of crazy. I was just like, so I just get a week off. I literally slept. Like, I just caught up on my sleep because I had midterms and I was just not in the mood. I think I might be a little bit of a Florida hater. I just don't see the appeal. Also, people say that Ohio is the Florida of the Midwest. People that are like Ohioans and Floridians are kind of similar. It's not a green flag to me. You know what I mean? One time, oh my God, Carissa, if you're listening to this, one time my friend told me senior year I look like somebody who would retire in Florida. Moment of silence. Moment of freaking silence. Because is that not the most offensive thing you've ever heard in your life? Yeah. That's all I have to say. Spring break. Nobody else is getting tanner than me, though. Also, who wants to spend the money on bikinis and cute outfits and drinks and a hotel now when you could be doing it in the summer? You know what the perfect spring break trip is? Going into like the woods with your friends, because you can do all the things that you were going to do and it's going to be so much cheaper. Telling my friends, oh, we should go to the Lynn cabin area in Ohio, and my friend knew about it too. And I was like, oh, we should rent out, we should do like an Airbnb, and we could all go up there. And environment feels like more fun to me. Who wants to go to the beach if it's too cold to even get in the water? What are you paying for at that point? And it's dangerous. And if you're isn't spring break the friends we made along the way? Isn't it about spending time with your friends? That's just me. A little bit of a change of conversation. One of my friends texted me today and told me that Muna and Trixie Mattel have a podcast episode together on Muna's podcast, Hello. And then one of my friends texted me as I was recording this and said, let's see what she said. She said, watching Muna Trixie, loving Joe's welcome gay shirt. Anyways, really excited to watch that. I have not watched it yet. Trixie Mattel also dropped a new video today that was makeup related, and I like Trixie's videos. I like when she brings on like guests and when she does like the other sorts of funny videos, because she's so funny. But my favorite videos that Trixie Mattel posts are her makeup reviews, her PR reviews, like not even like I do my makeup in a drag style, but I love seeing what drag queens use, and I take so much inspiration from drag queens when it comes to my makeup and the techniques they use, and baking and contouring and really bold eyeliners and in shapes, like the shapes of my face. I inspired by drag in a way. And yeah, I love, obviously, what lesbian doesn't love Trixie Mattel, you know what I mean? But I really do love her, and I'm so excited to listen to the podcast. On the same note of drag queens and makeup, I'm doing makeup for my friend's musical that they are directing, Susical, here at college, just like a student theater production. And I'm going to be doing like bird girl makeup inspired. A drag-esque look is what I'm going to go for. I'm going to try to glue down some of the girls' eyebrows and do like a non-eyebrow look and put feathers, and it's going to be really bright and colorful. I don't know what, I mostly wear neutrals, so I don't know. I'm hoping people are going to pull through with having colored eyeshadow that is good. It's going to be so much fun. I'm so nervous. I've never done this many people's makeup, and I'm such a perfectionist when it comes to makeup that really hope it looks good. And it's not like my makeup, you can look at it up close and it's gonna look good. Susical, you're not looking that hard. You're listening to them belt their high notes, you know what I mean? So it's gonna be a really fun experience. All right, we are nearing the end of the first episode of Don't Text Your Ex. We are now going to talk a little bit about some guest speakers that we're going to have on. I was debating if I wanted to do guest speakers or not, but I do think I want to. I only have one microphone, LOL, and I do not have the funds to buy another microphone. But maybe I don't know what I'll do. Like, can I pass it back and forth? Probably. We can probably just pass it back and forth. But then they're not going to be able to hear them. I'll figure out the logistics later. I'm worrying for no reason. So, I'm going to definitely have on some of my close friends. Also, everybody send Jory a text for doing my cover art for the pod. It looks so good. Thank you, Jory. Love you, Jory. Jory's from the Midwest, so maybe me and Jory are going to talk about some Midwestern gay culture. I'm going to have, obviously, my closest friends on, and we're going to be speaking about some really fun things. We're going to talk about international affairs topics, skincare and acne journeys, why I chose GW, being a barista, situationships, upcoming elections, politics, tea, drum, and definitely people's exes. So I'm really excited. Text me if you were one of my friends and you would like to guest star on my pod. I think it'll be fun to bounce ideas back and forth from each other. It'll be good to tell stories in a really authentic way. I kind of planned this story of telling how I found out I was gay, but I'm glad that I did that for this episode, because I think it lays the foundation for a lot of what you're going to hear from me. All right, that concludes our first full-length episode of Do Not Text Your Ex. don't text your ex. Please make sure to share it with your friends. If you're looking at this on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to this channel. If you're looking on Spotify, I don't know, I'm still trying to figure out how Spotify works, so I'm just happy if you're looking at it on, if you're listening on Spotify, because that means I figured it out. And yeah, this has been the first full-length episode of Don't Text Your Ex. Bye.